Speaking of mental health, though, I do want to bring in a very special guest to talk to us about the shooting and help us process and understand what we are all feeling right now. So Dr. Judy Ho, she's a clinical and forensic neuropsychologist who works with a lot of trauma victims. You may also recognize her from her many TV appearances, including co-hosting The Doctors and her book, Stop Self-Sabotage. Dr. Judy, we appreciate you. Thank you for coming back on DBL despite these awful circumstances. So we've already experienced so much grief and loss this past year, and we're just starting to feel a return to a more normal way of life thanks to the vaccines. Now we are seeing this wave of mass shootings. How are we supposed to process and deal with all of this?
It is so difficult, Sam, because as you mentioned, everyone has dealt with some form of grief and loss in this past year plus. Now that we're finally getting to a break in the pandemic and we can start feeling hopeful again, the news of 7 mass shootings in 7 days in the US alone is happening. And people are wondering, are we out of control again? Is there no end to all of this stress and this grief? And I think all of that mixed in with the pandemic and feeling out of control for a whole year, not knowing where to go, not having answers. Obviously, we're very early in these investigations, so people are just waiting for answers. And I think that that can cause a lot of alarm, amplified stress, and certainly a lot of strong negative emotional reactions.
You know, Doctor, there's so much going on in the world right now, and it feels like it's out of our control. So what are we supposed to do to not let fear hold us back, especially when we're talking about doing just basic things like going to the grocery store? Earlier, one of our co-hosts said she ordered because she was fearful of going to the grocery store last night. So how do we get back to a normal?
Well, first of all, it's important for us to realize that this is a completely normal reaction. After tragedies like this, people do take a step back and they might act out of fear for a little while. But in the long run, we can't let that take over. We have to try our best to be proactive, be knowledgeable, take steps to learn how to keep ourselves safe, but still continue to live our lives, because we need social connection more than anything right now. Our businesses need us to go patronize the businesses and help our economy. And also, it's not a way to live to continue to be in fear of these somewhat more rare incidents. I know that doesn't feel like that right now, but it is rare in the grand scheme of things. And so we do have to take steps to encounter that fear right away instead of letting that take hold, because that's how phobias start. And then people start to do less and less in their lives. And that really affects mental and physical health.
Dr. Judy, thanks for being here. I love talking to my co-host, but I love talking to a doctor and getting some facts. I'm going to be honest with you, Doc. How do I talk to my kids about this? They love coming to the grocery store with their dad. How do I say, like, hey, you can't come today? Do I have this conversation? They're only 2 and 4. What age do I have this conversation? Do I have it at all?
Good questions.
What an excellent question. And yes, we have to think about our children. No matter what age they are, it is our job to protect them. And it is important to have age-appropriate conversations with our children. And so if they're really young, like age 2 and 4, you can keep it pretty simple, but a good rule of thumb, no matter what age your child or your teen is to just start by asking them what they've heard. And just listen and see what they're saying to you, then invite them to ask any questions of their own. Explain to them what's going on in developmentally appropriate ways and keep graphic details to a minimum, and certainly don't show graphic pictures or videos. Assure them that their feelings are normal. And as an adult, role model healthy feeling expression. Say, guess what, Mom and Dad, we are scared too. Share your own concerns and let them know that the door is always open for further conversation anytime. But most importantly, let them know that the adults in their life and their community are working to keep them safe, and that there are really good people out there. And these are isolated people who are, for whatever reason, whatever it is that they're struggling with, they're enacting hate all over the world, but it is still a small minority, and the adults are trying as hard as they can to keep these children safe.
Great advice, Judy. I have one more question for you, and I know we only have about 30 seconds, but I think about those survivors yesterday in that store. What type of trauma are they dealing with, and how can they hopefully avoid a lifelong issue with trauma?
This is such a good question because people often have survivor guilt, and PTSD happens to witnesses of violent crimes. And so I think the most important thing is that they don't hide away. Sometimes these violent crimes, especially when you're a witness, it causes shame. So please continue to reach out to your community, reach out to professionals for support if you need it, because you're going to need it to process all of this.
Yeah, wow. Well, we appreciate you and your wise words so much, Dr. Judy, and you're going to stick around.